The chapter starts with a flashback of All Might in the students' dormitory, saying that searching for All for One is useless. To catch a coward like him, you have to lure him out, and their plan connects to Aizawa's in that aspect. Suguchi says that assuming the villains still have search, All for One would be able to confirm Deku's position from a distance. That's why Eraser's suggestion was to use Aoyama to take him to an isolated place. Everyone is happy to hear that he will be a part of the plan, but Momo remembers what his parents said about him knowing when they are lying. So yeah, we saw this in the previous chapter. Aoyama and Izuku deceived All for One into thinking that Aoyama was betraying Izuku, delivering him to All for One so that of course he could get the One for All quirk. But like I said, it turns out they were deceiving All for One, and that was a part of All Might and Aizawa's plan here to lure him out. And Suguchi mentioning search here is using All for One's strength or perceived strength to their own advantage, further luring him into a false sense of security, because All for One said in the previous chapter, it matters not. Trap or not, the search quirk tells the user the location and weaknesses of those they see. And the heroes Tomura saw in the previous conflict are deployed and dispersed across the country. They will not make it in time to assist you. But obviously we saw what had happened with Kurogiri's quirk being used and bringing all of the heroes to aid Izuku after All for One had used the warping quirk to bring his own villain team there. But going back to his lie detector quirk, Suguchi replies that they have already found an answer to this. The couple's conversations with All for One were always through some transmission device, never face to face. He must have a way to identify lies by the tone of their voice. So Aizawa also thought of a way to make a voice reach All for One's ears without a hint of falsity in it. That's when Shinso enters the room and the students go wild, saying that his uniform is really cool. Tsuyu says that she is confused about this since Aizawa explained the plan, because back at the joint training he couldn't use his quirk to make others talk on their own. Shinso then explains that in order to be worthy of entering the hero course, he has strengthened his quirk and will be able to control Aoyama's parents. So Shinso is back, and we saw him re-enter the story at the end of chapter 340, and they're talking about his hero costume here. I'm assuming we're getting a much better look at it. We only kind of saw him upside down in that one panel. And as Tsuyu is saying here, before Shinso couldn't use his quirk to make others speak. Whenever he used it, they kind of like became zombies and I guess just kind of did his actions. But like many other characters in this series, Shinso has strengthened his quirk and unlocked a new aspect of it, as to where now he can control others to speak. And this is also explaining how Aoyama's parents were able to deceive All for One, something that had eluded, I guess, most of us in the previous chapter. And I'm just assuming that this is going to come back into play later on in this arc, as it's just being established now so we can be familiarized with it. The students are very happy and wondering about his hero name and which class he will enter, asking it to be A. Nezu interrupts and says that although Shinso doesn't have a provisional license, Mera from the Public Safety Commission has given him permission to use his quirk in this situation. Tokuyami wonders how they will be able to mobilize the heroes if All for One still has search, because it would be too easy for him to spot the trap. All Might says that they don't have to be in the same place, and cuts to the central hospital, where we see Aizawa, Vlad, Monoma, and Kurogiri. Aizawa says it was All Might's request, and Vlad asks if Monoma is ready to play such an important role. So this is taking us to where the previous chapter ended, with Monoma activating Kurogiri's quirk to bring the heroes to the battlefield, and this is, I guess, explaining to us how that happened. He teases Aizawa by saying that it seems like a joke to ask him to master such a quirk in just a few days. Eraser apologizes and says that Kurogiri no longer responds to his voice and must not know who he really is. Now that Aizawa has lost one of his eyes, he can barely use Erasure properly, so he probably won't be able to do much in the next war. Monoma comforts him by saying that according to everyone who was in DEKU, all the heroes would have been wiped out if Eraserhead hadn't been there. Monoma then goes on to say that he is used to hearing that he could never become a real hero with his quirk, that it is a supporting character's power. Vlad then puts his arm on his shoulder and says that in this strategy, there are no supporting characters. Monoma will shine as one of the protagonists. So this is further giving development to Monoma, character who has certainly had some growing pains, not only in the story, but also on the audience. And I also like that we're seeing the parallels here between him and Shinso. Both of these characters were told that they couldn't be heroes because of their quirks and that they were either destined to be, as in Monama's case, a supporting character, and with Shinso's case, a straight up villain. But now it's their time to shine and show that they were meant to be much more than what they were told. Now, as for Aizawa not really being able to do much, I assume that Aizawa will have his final moments in the series, if not even just allowing Monama to use his quirk, which I wouldn't be surprised if he already has that like in his bank of quirks. And just how it was revealed that Shinso had strengthened his quirk, I also wouldn't be surprised if Monama has further strengthened his and he can hold even more than what he originally could. I could be wrong, but we'll see what happens. Cut back to the present with the heroes coming out of the portals while Monama laughs and boasts about his achievement. We see All Might in a command room with several screens saying that they were already expecting All For One to bring an army, because if he steals One For All now, he won't have to run and hide anymore, so he's going all out. Dabi advances towards Endeavor, saying that he didn't expect to find him here and asks if he would like to watch his fellow heroes die first. He shoots out a huge amount of fire, but at the same time a giant iceberg is expelled from the portals. Shoto comes out of them right away and says that he will not let his idiot brother act as he pleases. Dabi notices his presence and starts laughing. This is also another converging storyline here. Todoroki family drama is, I guess, approaching its climax at this point. All Might then shouts, "System Troy on," and we see huge metal constructs coming out of the ground, trapping the villains inside of them. All For One wonders why the heroes did that, knowing that he can destroy these things in seconds, but soon understands what the real intent is. Suguchi tells All Might that this time they'll be able to win with the plan he created. The metal cages begin to move, and Monama opens the portals once again, while All For One confirms that the plan is to separate the villains. End of chapter. So this is a pretty interesting development, and it's smart on the surface, of course, but I just wouldn't say that everything is as it seems. I highly doubt that it's all going to work out as smoothly as we perceive it to be right now. I mean, it is possible that Horikoshi just wants to end the series and it's just, a straight path towards the end with little to no resistance, but it just seems unlikely. There has to be some kind of foil that happens here, and I'm assuming it's going to be revealed within the next 1 or 2 chapters, and I think it will ultimately come down to these systems that have been established. Not only the system Troy, but also just the overall UA barrier that was explained to us multiple times. But let me know what you think about these spoilers and what you think is going to happen in the next chapter. Have a great day.